Hello and welcome back to the Jeevers Golf Channel. My name is Hans Jeevers. I'm a PGA Tour fantasy golf contributor for Fansided.com and ProGolfNow.com. And I'm here with you this week to talk about the Shriners Hospitals for Children Open. I hope I got that right. I believe I did. So this particular golf tournament has been played at the same golf course, TPC Summerlin, every year since 2008. And if you have any knowledge of fantasy golf, you'll know that that's a great thing from a fantasy perspective, as we'll have plenty of stats to take a look at to see which players perform well and how those key statistics related to them that particular week. That's always a great thing if you're trying to compose lineups on any given week. So we do have that this week. I'm never a big fan of those new tournaments that pop up on the schedule, and I have no familiarity with the golf course. So having said that, we have this golf course that TPC Summerlin is a resort-style golf course. It is a golf course that, as I looked at the skill sets of winners over the last 10 years, I definitely did notice some key trends, what you want to look at for players. For one thing, I noticed that the average for driving accuracy for the winner of the event that given week was 28th, and you don't see that on the PGA Tour that often. Usually you see those type of golf courses where bob and gouging can be successful for those, like let's say a Bryson DeChambeau. Did a little bit of that at the U.S. Open by overpowering it to some extent. That is just not going to work this week. I also noticed that driving accuracy is 11th for those winners over the last 10 years on average. So having stated that, you want a guy that can find the fairway off the tee and can pound greens in regulation, and hitting it 350 yards and being off the fairway will not lead to low scores this week. So keep that in mind. All you need to do is take a look at this golfer, Kevin Gnaw. He has won this event twice in the last 10 years. And for anybody out there that knows golf knows that Kevin Gnaw does not hit it a long way, but he is accurate off the tee. I don't think it's coincidental at all that he's won this event twice in the last 10 years. So keep that in mind. Having stated that, this is a par 71 that measures 7,255 yards. I should also mention that as you're composing lineups, look for golfers that tend to play well above sea level. I'm not talking 2 feet above sea level. I'm talking about 2,700 feet above sea level. So the ball will have a difference in flight, as you may know. So having stated that, I'll get right to who I'm going with this week. And I'm going with, on DraftKings, I'm going to roll with Hideki Matsuyama. He comes in at 9,900 on DraftKings. And I think he's getting overlooked a little bit this week, and I like his price point of only 9,900 relative to some of these other guys that are more in the 11,000 range. When you find someone to start off your lineup at about 9,900, you have a little bit more flexibility with your lineups. You get a bit more talent into your lineup. Having said that, with FanDuel, there's a little bit softer pricing there, so it's not as much of an issue with FanDuel. Having said that, let's go back to Hideki. The 28-year-old arrives at this week's event on the heels of 6 consecutive top 29 finishes on the PGA Tour, including a third-place result at the BMW Championship. I looked at the last 12 rounds played for Hideki in relation to this field this week. I probably mentioned that before on this podcast, or I should say show. It's not a podcast. Regardless, I like to look at the last 12 rounds played on the PGA Tour in relation to the field this week, the fellow competitors that this golfer will have. So in relation to this week's current listed field, in the last 12 rounds played on the PGA Tour, Matsuyama ranks 1st in strokes gained tee to green, 7th in strokes gained approach, and 5th in strokes gained ball striking. Also like to look at guys that may have played here previously and played well. I wouldn't say it's a prerequisite this week. This is a resort-style golf course. However, having said that, it definitely does help. And Hideki finished 16th here last year. So I do like that. Another guy that I think has a lot of win equity this week is the American Harris English, 9,700 on DraftKings. Another guy that I think could be going under the radar as other more prominent golfers are being looked at, like the Bryson DeChambeaus of the world. But we should not forget about Harris here. He has an impressive 8 top 23 finishes in his last 9 events on the PGA Tour, including a second-place result at the Northern Trust in August. But more recently, I watched this event every round of the golf tournament, the U.S. Open. And the last round, he was firing at pins and he finished fourth. And he just looked. You look at in the eyes of Harris that round, and you could tell he felt highly comfortable with where the ball was going. I think that he is one of the most talented golfers as far as current form in this field. He is more than he should be more around 10-7 in my opinion than 9-7 based on his current form. Next up on DraftKings, I'm going with Sung Jae Im, 22-year-old Korean. Has 4 top 28 finishes in the last 6 events on the PGA Tour, including a 26th place result at the United States Open. For those that don't know, Sung Jae Im was the Rookie of the Year on the Korn Ferry Tour, which is basically equivalent to AAA baseball. And it is the tour right before getting on to the PGA Tour. Then he got his PGA Tour card, ended up on the PGA Tour, and he got his Rookie of the Year on the PGA Tour as well. The guy's just an outstanding player, and he's due to win. He has not won in a while, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's this week. Next up, I'm going with Brandt Snedeker. We're going a little bit lower in cost here. Brandt Snedeker, 7,300. Those that may follow me on Twitter, about 6 months ago, I said I highly recommend that you stay away from Brandt Snedeker for the foreseeable future. And I meant it at the time. And however, prior to last week's event, it was reported that Snedeker fired his instructor and his caddy, and he's working with a new instructor and a new caddy. And I got to tell you, I watched Snedeker last week on the Golf Channel and watched his rounds quite closely, and I was impressed with what I saw. He looked rejuvenated. I think the new caddy and the instructor are making a difference, and he finished 17th last week. And I think he's going to roll right into this tournament and play well. And for those that gamble or that play at DFS golf on occasion, you want to get the guy before the whole community, be it the DFS or betting community, jumps on him. So I think you need to jump on Snedeker this week before he starts getting hot and the whole world is on him. Next up, I'm going with Peter Malnati. Comes in on the slate at $6,700. He played outstanding last week, and I almost took down a GPP last week in which he was only owned in 0.7% of lineups. However, Sergio killed me, but Malnati fired a final round 63 last week en route to an eventual second place finish. So I like Peter Malnati this week. He also has played well here in the past, which I like as well. Next up, a guy that I think is definitely going to get overlooked, except for the people that are pretty sharp out there. Martin Laird comes in on the DraftKings slate at $6,400. Laird finished 28th at last week's Sanderson Farms Championship. In relation to last week's field at the Sanderson Farms, after 4 rounds of play, Laird ranked second in GIR. He hit almost 82% of his greens in regulation. Laird resides in the Vegas area, and he's always played well at TPC Summerlin. He won the event in 2008. In the last 10 years in total, he has 5 top 28 finishes at TPC Summerlin at the Shriners. So we'll leave it at that. I'll tell you that I have 2 articles that are currently out there right now. I don't put the links in the description because YouTube frowns on that. So please go to progolfnow.com or fansided.com to check out my content. It is all free. Thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll check you out next week. Take care.